step of taking flight. Everything's gonna be alright, yeah. Start of a brand new day. It's the start of a brand new day. Start of a brand new day. It's the start of a brand new day.
Well, hi, everybody. Hey, welcome to day 2 of Adobe Summit After Hours. This is the last day we're going to do this. There's one more half a day, if you will, of sessions during the conference. But really for today, this is more of a kind of a wrap up, really, for a lot of the different sessions that happened in day 1 and day 2. Just had a great time. It was really interesting to see some of the different content, and this was much more of a session focused day. Yesterday was more about some of the expo experiences and some of the experiences with some of the vendors. I was able to get all of the technical issues resolved from yesterday. So I do have a lot of the footage that we talked about with different vendors like Microsoft yesterday. And so we'll share some of that throughout today's conversation. And we'll also talk a little bit about some of the sessions themselves too. So, had an interesting time getting to kind of see some of the sessions from former clients that have gone on and done implementations in other shops. And that's one of the things that you see from the Marketo community over the years is that as you kind of are connecting with more and more people and time goes on, people move and they go on to different companies, they work with different implementation providers. And it's just kind of neat to see, just some of the different stories about things that they're doing from the either the projects that you've worked on previously or some of the things that you're doing from projects that they have worked on previously, right? It's very much a reciprocal type of a relationship in a lot of ways. And it's because of the complexity of some of these systems, right? They just dictate that, no one of us is smarter than all of us. I think if you've been watching some of the content that I produced over the years, it's always been about that, right? I like to think I've got experiences in some things, but there's always areas where you're kind of learning and growing and developing, which is part of the reason why you invest the money in going to these conferences. So let's get started with it. My name is Michael Tucker. So just to kind of, reiterate a little bit, and I'm from Conversion Store. So we are a consultancy. We help Marketo engage administrators make the most out of their instances. Building email templates, if that's handling campaign operations, campaign desk work, if that's handling integrations. And some of the things we talked about yesterday was, being able to use tools to build customized integrations or integrations with CRMs. You'll see a lot of those different projects. So one of the things that happened during this session, which we'll show a little bit about a little later on, is I kind of played around with the agenda a little bit and saw what it was like. I had signed up for different lab sessions and had some interesting experiences with that. So we'll talk a little bit about that into these sessions, about some of the good things and the not so good things about some of the labs this year. They're a little bit different than last year. And there were some areas where I admittedly was a little frustrated with some of the ways that things were presented and the speed and the kind of the way they were presented. I found it really difficult to be able to participate and kind of get into it. It felt like we were just kind of being thrown a lot of stuff, and it wasn't really. I walked out with a lot more questions than I had answers, and so that's frustrating. But it seemed like everybody was really open to input on that, and I'm hoping that it gets a little bit better for next year. So anyway, not to focus on that. Like, there's always areas to improve upon with the conference. But I want to talk a little bit more, and then we'll dive into some of the content, and then just talk a little bit about kind of what's happening with this. So some of this is from material from yesterday, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But we'll talk a little bit about software insights first of all. And so neat thing about again, we'll go into the footage today, and I thought that there were some neat things that we saw at some of the different booths and the vendors. So I want to dive into that right away. And so really where we're going to get started with this is I want to do just a session that we had with Microsoft. So the first one, we'll just talk a little bit about one of the areas that are at the booth that we saw at Microsoft, and kind of what they're doing with their version of AI. So, Adobe has their version, Microsoft has their version, OpenAI has a version which is different than Microsoft. And you'll even see Google have one with Gemini, right? So there's all sorts of different platforms. If you saw some of my LinkedIn content talking about traffic and conversion, but the conference that was here in Las Vegas in January, a couple months ago, they had all sorts of different AI technologies too that aren't even mentioned here because they're just from more kind of mid-market providers, if you will, that are really doing some things in the AI space around video collateral. So, just kind of interesting to see. But so there are things that are here that are kind of more for different types of applications. But I wouldn't say that this is I don't think anybody would say that this is an exhaustive set of technologies or criteria that are here at Adobe Summit. So it's one place to be able to go. But, keep in mind, one thing I found really valuable is I went to a bunch of these earlier on in starting, our practice here. But I do find that it's helpful to kind of go to some of the other events that are not Adobe events, just to kind of get a good feel for what you might want to use in your business as well too. And that's helped me tremendously with different implementations that we've been doing, especially in these past few years. So let's dive into the Microsoft content a little bit first here.
Hi everybody, it's Michael Tucker again from Conversion Store. So we're at the Microsoft booth right now, and it's the very beginning of Summit, so a lot of people are just starting to come in, but it's really interesting to kind of see, if I just shift the camera here a little bit, about some of the things that are being talked about, right, around like generative AI and around AI in general. So, you hear a lot about Adobe's AI, but Microsoft is doing quite a bit, being heavily involved with OpenAI around their AI platform, which is Microsoft Copilot. So if you're a Dynamics user and you're using Marketo, you really want to be looking at using Microsoft Copilot to be able to help with some of the data. You see use cases here. On this slide, one of the things that we see here is just some of the different prompts that you can use with Microsoft Copilot. And it's interesting to see how it kind of ties into the software that we know about Outlook, and being able to kind of use a tool, like an intermediary tool, kind of like Make.com, in order to be able to send these prompts between the Marketo instance, Microsoft Dynamics CE, and Copilot, in order to be able to make things easier for your sales teams, your BDRs, your SDRs, in order to be able to make more profit faster and get more insights about your customers. So we're going to see a lot more about Marketo and how it works with Microsoft Dynamics going forward. I think you'll see when we get to some of the product roadmap introductions. I think that's one of the big things this year is fear not, if you're a Microsoft Dynamics user using Marketo, there's a lot of things that are coming down the pipeline that are going to make that a great experience.
Okay, yeah. So really, I think one of the things that you need to think about when you're looking at AI and you're talking about, some of the different discussions here is that we even saw this in some of the keynotes, I think yesterday. I didn't go to as many of the ones here today, just because we're working on other content, right? But how do you use, so it's one thing if you want to type in a prompt and then manually go ahead and kind of use that to be able to help to kind of synthesize data and or synthesize some content and kind of work that out. How do you then tie that into something that's more scalable with your marketing automation platform, or just any process inside of your business, right? And so I think that's really where these platforms, I think Microsoft has built some interesting platforms, and we saw some middleware platforms that that we'll show a little bit later on here too, that kind of talk about how you can tie that in. So let's go to the interview now, and we can talk a little bit about, from a representative at Microsoft, a little bit about what's happening there too.
Okay, hi everybody. It's Michael Tucker again from Conversion Store, just preparing for Adobe Summit After Hours for tonight. I got Jack from Microsoft that's here, just talking a little bit about Copilot. Tell me a little bit about what Copilot is and what that means for Dynamics users.
Great. So Copilot is our conversational Gen AI basically about being able to use natural language to power engineers, non-engineers, business people, pretty much anyone in their flow of work to do their work more efficiently. That's kind of how we're looking at it.
Okay. And what does it mean in terms of Adobe users? Where do you see the biggest lift for people?
Well, there's been a lot of work with Copilots and Adobe. We have a number of integrations that we've been working on, including most recently at the keynote, we announced a huge effort around Copilot and Adobe marketing systems, which is going to help empower marketers in their day-to-day, democratizing data as well as helping them in their flow of work. And meeting them where they are, which is really what Copilot is about. You should be able to, from whatever surface you're in, get the data you need, get the answers you need, and do the work you need to do.
What's the best place for people to go to if they want to get more information? Maybe a website?
We have a few websites. It really depends on your discipline. So if you're in engineering, the Microsoft Learn documentation as well as just product documentation is really thorough and can help you get started in terms of building sandboxes, figuring out how to work with Copilot, how to build custom connectors, which can be really exciting, especially for our partners. And then if you're more on the business side, we have just the general Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft OpenAI websites, which give a really good high-level overview of what's going on. But there's resources for everybody out there.
So Microsoft is the underwriter of OpenAI and ChatGPT, right? But Copilot is different than ChatGPT. Is that right?
Copilot is different from ChatGPT. However, it does use those large language models in order to interact with users and understand what they're saying. But yeah, OpenAI themselves, they have their own LLM models, and we have a strong partnership with OpenAI, which is what led to Azure OpenAI, and it's what powers a lot of GenAI technology.
Well, everybody, Microsoft has a pretty bright future in the AI space. We're seeing it a lot more definitely with what's happening on the CRM side of things. So for all of you in the marketing community, which is really our base, is there's a lot of things that you can do. You saw in the keynote, if you were streaming it on Summit.Adobe, about using AI for content creation. There's a lot as data-driven marketers that we can do with AI to be able to help with some of the structuring of unstructured data using AI. So I think you're going to see a lot of that in some of the announcements that are happening throughout the conference. And definitely, if you're interested in more of this, feel free to take a look at our blog. Feel free to take a look at some of the other sessions that we'll be talking about throughout this conference again. Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, likewise.
Okay. All right. So, I think it was interesting to kind of hear a little bit, some of the content about Azure OpenAI, and then about the integrations that they're working on in the Microsoft ecosystem, and tying that in with the Adobe ecosystem. So, the two companies have a pretty strong partnership that, as I understand it, predates the Marketo acquisition. So it's been in play for quite a long time, and I think there's kind of scratching the surface. Again, it's an area that I'm trying to kind of get a better understanding of for our practice. But I think that there's a lot more of a future that's going to be available capabilities wise. It's going to come out of some of the collaborations that you see here. Keep in mind too the note that was mentioned about large language models. We said, well, how is Copilot different from OpenAI? And the answer that came back was, well, they're different large language models. And I think that's a point of differentiation that you see in all of the different AI softwares. So, and this is different. We didn't have a session about this like publicly, but I have been launching the Meetup community and meetup.com in the greater Charlotte area, where I'm based out of, in North Carolina in the United States. And one of the things that has come out of that is we have an AI group I don't run it, I just attend it in the Charlotte area. And they had Google product manager from Google that was there, and talking a little bit about their AI capabilities, which I think have been rebranded to Gemini, but they were, I think it was Duet or something like that, or Duo, when I was there. And so they were, Charlotte is a big financial hub of the United States. So a lot of fintech companies that were in the audience, and they were talking about their large language model and how you build proprietary applications off of that. And so that was mentioned in the keynote session of yesterday's Adobe Summit. So Shantanu Narayan was kind of saying a little bit about how you can use Adobe's generative AI model and their AI in order to be able to build kind of proprietary applications for your company to be able to match your branding, right? Like, you don't want to be able to have an AI that could allow somebody to build content on scale that mimics your brand, or uses some of the different tactics, creative tactics, maybe is an example that you might use in your company, right? You don't want that to go into the public language model, large language model, so that other marketers could use it, because that's something that you invest time to build expertise in, to build up your capabilities for your company, your brand, your marketing function, right? And so I think that's really what you want to think about when you think about AI going forward. It's that sort of, okay, great, we have all of these tools and these processing capabilities now to use AI, and how do you use the benefit and the scale of cloud computing, of shared resources, which is really what cloud computing is basically built off of. But how do you build, you need to build profit. You need to be able to build a business that is differentiated, that has intellectual property. And that's really where these AI, you need to be thinking about AI now is it's not that you're tying in prompts into the exact same system as everybody else and hoping that you write a prompt the same way. It's okay, well, that's a starting off point. After we get good at that, okay, good, I don't know if it's good grammar, but after we, develop the skills to be able to build up, okay, here's what we want to generate at AI, and use that to develop it. It's where do you go from there, right? How do you build points of differentiation to be able to use some of the foundational capabilities of AI that we're seeing in the past 2 years? And then the next iteration is well, how do we build something that builds some sort of brand or some sort of a competitive or comparative advantage for what you're doing above what somebody else is doing. So I mean, I'm not a futurist, but that's kind of where I see the content so far. So let's flip back into, let me throw in some of the presentations here and just talk a little bit about, so Software Insights was good. The sessions I thought was really interesting today. So yesterday I had the one lab that I'd gone to. I think there was a couple of sessions that happened throughout the day. There might have been some in other products that were not Marketo that maybe I didn't go into. So apologies if I've kind of missed about there. But let me talk a little bit about some of the sessions that I did see here. So saw a really good one. Where is the slide on that? Let me flip through for a bit here, guys. Oh, I see. I've got the wrong slides that are in here. But saw a really good session that was in here from Emily Hesley, who's at Vanguard Financial. It was interesting. They were talking a little bit about their session and how they built out their Marketo instance. So let me come back to that for a second here. I'll pull these up while we're just talking about one of the other sessions that we saw here. And one thing that I thought was really kind of interesting yesterday was these experiential marketing type of sessions that we saw on the floor. So we'll pop into that for a second and actually just show you kind of the this really neat experience that they have up this year in the expo floor. And it kind of maybe kind of reminded me of kind of like a pub, or they call it a lounge, like an Adobe lounge. But I thought it was really fun. It had pinball, it had foosball tables, and there was this really neat experience around Shaq that not actually Shaq, but like around his persona, his brand personality, that I thought was kind of interesting. So we'll share a little bit of that now.
So this is one of the different experiences, and I apologize for the shakiness on the camera here, but you can see you've got this idea to take a photo with Shaq, who's kind of the keynote speaker this year, and who will also be doing kind of the DJing around this. And you know, it's funny that they're talking about kind of the sports side of Shaq, because the business side of Shaq is amazing. And so that's one of the things I think that's good about the speaker this year versus anything else, is that it's, you know, you can draw a direct line to kind of say, here's what Shaq has done in his marketing career is as interesting as his sports career, in my personal opinion, not being a basketball fan.
Okay, great. So yeah, he's so a lot of fun experiences that were kind of happening around this this video. And then I I didn't capture, I think I have some photos that we'll show you a little bit as well too, about like the pinball tables, and they had a bar that was nearby too. So definitely serving drinks around there. It's a great place to kind of sit and then chat with other people, and then kind of come in and kind of see that. The other thing that I will share with you is this, they have this community pavilion, which is like a kind of like a theater. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like one of the smaller lecture halls, maybe around grad school, and or probably in the latter years of my undergrad education. So it's kind of a smaller type of a venue, but it had kind of like a theater in the round, if you're into like Shakespeare or things like that, right? That allowed you to be able to kind of have more of an intimate, interactive type of a session that was available. So let me share that with you a little bit so you can kind of see what that looks like.
So this is one of the different experiences. And
Oops.
okay, hi everybody. We're coming in from the community.
Oh, I apologize for the audio on this.
So what's the community area? Basically, this is an area where a lot of vendors, champions, advocates will go in and actually share some of the experiences that they're having at Adobe Summit as well too. So in about 15 minutes here, we're going to do a session, and it'll be about how to connect with different people that are at Adobe Summit. It's a good place to be able to kind of get some ad hoc knowledge too as well. And that whole part where you have kind of ghost learning, where you're learning about other experiences from people that are in the actual platforms and using them, that are kind of champions like me, right? That are working with them. This is a good place to be able to do that. But it's also an open forum, so if you wind up meeting somebody that you're really interested in talking to, take them to this session and give them a spot where they'll be able to kind of learn a little bit more about what's happening inside the community. So this place is empty right now, but it is going to pack up pretty heavily soon. And there's a full session of different activities that are not the keynote speeches, but they're the ones that are more ad hoc deliveries that you'll see from different people. So definitely something to see. It's right by the front entrance to the area too, so it's not by any one particular vendor. It's kind of off to the side, which makes it a little more private when you're having bigger conversations that work with people. Right? So that's one of the reasons why you're coming to this.
All right, guys. So yeah, apologies about the audio there. Again, a lot of background noise as you're kind of coming in and working on these things. And I think for next year, we'll probably have that kind of short up a little bit more and kind of increase the production budget for this one. But yeah, everything I'd mentioned before is kind of what I was saying in that video as well too. So it's right by the front entrance, and there's a couple of different sessions there's kind of like it had its own agenda that was on the side. So if you wanted to kind of break out and then go to that session, you could see things about like just different areas of community. A lot of the advocacy stuff that I have done in years past was sort of centered around there, and they have sort of the kind of the marquee names, the old guard, if you will, that were kind of presenting a lot of that you see kind of the perennial favorites that were kind of from the old Marketo advocacy group that were kind of at those. So I didn't really spend a lot of time there just because sort of the past and not really the future really from my perspective. But I do think that if you're just getting into it for the first time and you're like brand new to Marketo and you're brand new to enterprise level marketing, then maybe that's a good place to be able to start to kind of make some connections and kind of meet people, and kind of see what's out there and get some exposure to it. So kind of a good starting off point. Let me see. I think I've got some of my slides here to put together. No. Okay. So still looking at some of the updates in terms of some of the sessions that were happening today. I'll share some of those with you probably later on after I get home after this conference is over. But one thing that I thought was really fun, actually, partway through, is there's these networking sessions that were available. You can pay to participate in Adobe Summit as a vendor, right? And actually have a booth on the floor and have a area to be able to kind of meet the different attendees that are paying to go to Adobe Summit. But there are also a lot of different events that happen around Summit as well too. So they're not. It's hard to kind of explain the difference here, but the difference is that one, you're in the actual convention center. The other option is a lot of the big four consulting firms, for example, will have their own hospitality suites, and those will be in like the adjacent hotel that'll be nearby. So there was this really neat event that one of the vendors, Sendoso, did, and they had a whole kind of group of co-partners basically that were kind of helping them. So Chili Piper's another one that we've worked with historically. And so they had this really neat session that they did in the Venetian Hotel's day spa. So they had like a massage therapy session, and they had a whole session with like therapy dogs. And then they did a little bit of a demonstration too. They had people on hand to be able to showcase some of the different things that they offer with their product. So I sort of kind of slid into one of those conversations. So I'll show you some of that. And admittedly, this wasn't really a session with us, but it's something I wanted to share with you a little bit more, just so you could see, some of the things that are happening there. And I'm not sure if I have the therapy dogs that are on here per se, but I do actually. So I'll share with you the Sendoso demonstration a little bit and talk a little bit about what they're doing, and then we'll also show you a little bit of footage about the therapy dogs for these two Great Danes, and I think there's a Schnauzer that was there as well too. So if you're a dog person, you'll like that.
And then get access to the code. Okay. So after they got access to the code, then they could open it, and then it was like really fun, interactive. And then the other gift was it was $100 to spa. So it was like take time to relax. This other one sits in the warehouse, ready to send at any point in time for any of the reps. Right? So it's like picture a whole new way to drive demand with a little like Sendoso-based camera. Some info about who we are, what we do. Right, so you build kits like that sit in the inventory so that your reps who are trying to build relationships and grow business and book meetings can tap into some of that magic.
Okay.
Very cool.
So you have to have an advance spend for the inventory.
Yeah, what do you do? Like put a deposit down?
So there's an annual fee. Okay. And then on top of that, a lot of people come with like another $30,000 to $60,000 in gifting budget.
Okay.
Right? Other companies more so. It just depends on where you are.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And so all of that gets developed on brand, basically. Like all of this is basically.
Yeah, we have a team that can help you put stuff like this together. Okay. You can go out and source it and send it to us, and we'll put it together. A lot of different strategies that we can deploy there.
That's very cool.
And then on top of this, right, we'll do all the tracking and analytics and let you know like who's getting the packages, where it is, all that stuff.
So if you're in Marketo, then that data will automatically come back in, basically. You just pull it back into whatever platform you natively use.
Exactly. And in Marketo, if you have other marketing campaigns that you're tracking, right, you can set up triggers so that something like this automatically gets sent out when someone takes action, right? Like some CTA, sign up for this newsletter, whatever. Boom, something like this can get sent out.
That's very
pretty strong.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, really cool. So, there was a whole session that was there that was really talking a little bit about they had a whole different speaker session as well. So it was like a little classroom style room, and I would say probably fit at maybe about 30 people max, maybe 20. And so they had different partners that were there. So there was a really interesting session with the VP of marketing for Chili Piper, the senior vice president of marketing for Sendoso, and which was this platform that we're talking about here. So what they do is they build I'm probably not doing this justice, so really apologize if anybody from Sendoso is watching this or you have it. Put in the chat if you want to. If you think I'm not describing this correctly, but basically they do have a platform that allows you to kind of handle fulfillment of different marketing collateral, different like sending, gifting strategies, things like that, right? So you can tie that in when a lead that you have has a certain score, for example, or they're at a certain part in the customer journey, and I would say it's a high value purchase. Think about like maybe something like a car, maybe, or something like that. Or just a high spend, I guess. Let me not preface it that way. Then you could actually do a campaign to be able to send them a gift. And so this was used a lot during the beginning of the pandemic for lockdown to kind of get an understanding when everybody left their offices and went to work from home initially. A lot of marketers who may have relied on the corporate address for a lead, the account address, if you will, to be able to either, I don't know, send a direct mail or have like a marketing piece, or maybe use it for lead routing. If your lead routing is done by geography, they lose that. And so this is a good way to be able to kind of send a gift out and then be able to get some of that data to use afterwards for different campaigns if it's location sensitive for whatever reason. So that was the kind of business side of it. The fun side of it, speaking as a dog owner, was that they had all these dog therapy dogs that were available. And let me see. Oh, I did have this here. Yes, I did. Okay, great. So let me grab. This is some of the gifting that was available, and I think I threw in a dog photo. Oh, you know what I didn't? Here it is. Here, this is some.
For our Hope celebration.
This is Moose.
This is Moose.
Okay. Hi, Moose.
All dogs in your short.
And they're both purebred Great Danes?
Yes.
This is a Scotty?
This is also a purebred Great Dane.
Right, sure he is.
She just did gross.
What's his name? What's your name?
This is JoJo.
Hi, JoJo. Oh, sorry. Oh, what was this? Oh, whoops. Oh, playing cards. Okay, great.
Yes, and then I can sign off your card, your bingo card.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If you would like me to.
Yes, I need to
If
throw
you're
this out. But sure, why not? Oh, sweet. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And what is the organization doing?
So this is Microphone Chicago. We are a local organization to Las Vegas, and we specialize in therapy dog and service dog training.
Oh, okay.
So our organization, we do public events,
Okay.
and it helps us provide scholarships to veterans to have a battle buddy by their side of a service dog. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so we provide these dogs go to hospitals, schools. These are the fun events they get to do. They do a lot more serious, more work with like healthcare. And
We're-
things like that. Sings in the church choir.
I
In the church choir.
Do they? Are you taking donations? Is that what? Like, is it
This is
a nonprofit? Or?
This is yeah, we are a nonprofit.
Okay.
So they sponsored us to be here.
Okay.
So yeah, they provided a donation.
Very cool.
Okay, so just jumping back into this, really big thanks to Sendoso for doing that. I thought that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen at a conference, truthfully. I just as a dog person, I really looking forward to getting home to see my dogs. And I'll spare you with that because I think everybody has a dog story that's a dog owner that to just kind of see. But I thought it was kind of a good compliment to be able to kind of show between that and some of the massage therapy options that they had as well too. It was just a really fun event to be able to go out to and really nice facilities. So one of the things about Las Vegas is a lot of people will say, well, a gambling or a party town or something like that. But there's quite a bit that's here actually that's not that at all. So they have really nice spa facilities. They have really nice arts, theater, all sorts of different entertainment options, which I think gets a lot of publicity too. So I think it's kind of known for that. But I don't know how old this is, but they used to call it Sin City, and I guess there's probably an element to that. I can't say that that's not the case at all, but there's a lot more to it, right? These are just conferences, that, for example, right, for business and commerce, and the Super Bowl was just held here. So I would say that what you might have thought about Las Vegas in years past is probably not what Las Vegas is like now. So I would encourage you to come visit, even if you're not here for a conference. It's a good place to go to in a lot of ways. So I thought that was really great. So a couple of things. I'll slide back into the slides here for a minute, actually, again, and then just kind of pick up. So this is from yesterday a little bit, but so one thing that kind of came up that was a little bit interesting. Okay, so this is the agenda board that you'll see along the wall of some of the conference presentation areas that talks about the different schedules. On the let me see if I have the footage of it. No, I don't have it in here yet. But so I had a video that I kind of did up about this that was just talking on the left-hand side of this board. You'll see the overall schedule for the entire conference, right? That just talks about the plenary sessions and then all the breakout sessions. The middle part, so not the far right and the far left column, but everything in between, is all of the different speaker sessions. So those are usually with either a Adobe rep and some partners, or just partners, and they're shorter. So they're usually about maybe 30 minutes to an hour long. So a lot of like case studies, testimonials, or different ways to be able, or different showcases of new technology, let's say. On the right-hand column, you'll see the labs, and these are the ones that I've been talking about a lot. I like the concept that they allow you to do hands-on learning and that you're in a classroom style. One of the things that was a little different last year, you were given a trial software license to be able to use for 2 months after Adobe Summit ended. And you also got a whole pamphlet full of takeaway material that you could use to be able to train yourself afterwards. That's not the case this year. And I found it really frustrating to be able to try and keep up with some of the instruction. They're trying to get a lot of the material through, and it was done in a really fast way. I found it difficult to be able to kind of keep pace with what they're talking about, what was in the instruction book. And the other piece, just to kind of mention it, is I found it difficult to use the workstations, the computers that are there. So what happens is that they have a classroom, but you're using their computers, and probably for security reasons, so that they can kind of keep track of the IP, and that it tries to give kind of a consistent environment, right, for training purposes, which makes sense. I understand why they're doing it that way. In full disclosure, I have really bad eyesight, and so I need kind of accessibility issues where I need just larger screen and lower resolution on my screen. And I use a PC. I think I used a Mac in my old shop before starting Conversion Store, but I'm not familiar with it. I haven't used it in probably 7 years. And so I found it really, really, really hard to be able to get into the sessions. It probably took me a good, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to be able to kind of figure out, how to kind of log into the software without being able to read anything that was on the screen. And so kind of my bad. I wish I had kind of thought through that a little bit more and kind of communicated it. But it's something I just want to share because I just think it's an area they're conscientious about it. Somebody did reach out to me before this conference and said, "Hey, you noted that you had a visual disability. How can we help you?" And I thought, okay, well, it'll be like last year. I'll have a written PDF, and I'll also have I have a written piece of paper that I'm assuming will be in a larger font size, and I'll have 2 months to be able to use the software. I didn't have either of those, and that was just it wasn't, I didn't even think about it, right? Like that way. I was thinking about it from last year. So, it's kind of a challenge to be able to kind of work through a little bit. And I just think it's one of those things, when you look at these lab sessions, um, uh, it makes the experience a little bit different. You really need to be hands-on. You really need to be able to get to learn and use some of these products, especially because we're trying to move as Marketo practitioners to be able to use some of the other Adobe ecosystem. And so that was the other challenge too, that I had signed up for a lab, 2 labs today, and went into the one around Visible, which is now Marketo Measure, and they're talking a little bit about their new Marketo Measure Ultimate platform, which I think is about a year and a bit old. That platform is not like Visible was, where it'll have all these integrations with in different JavaScript tagging to be able to grab information that'll come in from let's say online channels. So think of like social media, paid social, and your CRM and your marketing automation platform. All of the data in Marketo Measure Ultimate, from what I got out of this session, was going to be coming through Adobe's data environment and data platform, and that was going to be exclusive to that. So this afternoon, I actually called a bit of an audible, and instead of going to a B2B session about like B2B marketing around Marketo, I went to a session around the Adobe data platform, and it was very interesting. I found it interesting from a technical perspective, kind of getting in and seeing their platform and some of the tools that I don't work in, Adobe Analytics, tags, and the Adobe Experience platform, like different areas of the Adobe Experience Cloud. So that was interesting, but I guess there's areas where their use cases were all around an e-commerce site. We just don't do a lot of work in that, especially, it was around, I think their sample site was like a B2C site for women's fashion. And it's just not an area. I'd be really interested to see a Marketo instance that was built around something like that, because I don't think it gets used that way very often, if at all. We've done some B2B to C for manufacturers that have that as have kind of consumer channel, but it's not the majority of their business. And if I'm thinking back to the instances where we have worked on those. So I left halfway through it. I realized, okay, this is fascinating, and it probably will be useful as we're going further down the line, and we see, Marketo's product roadmap intersect with more of Adobe sessions. I don't think I would have gone to that this year. If I really thought through it, I would have stuck with my main session and kind of stuck with everything that was focused more on the Marketo and the B2B side of things. So I think what I'm really trying to get across here is that there is a lot of heterogeneity and diversity around the content at this scale of a conference now. And so you really have to make sure that you understand, okay, what is the lane of content that I am focused on in this conference versus the other, any of the other lanes, because you might go to those and they'd be completely foreign from what it is that you're working on. So just an important thing to kind of note there. Okay, so I think that covers a lot of the content from today. We have some other interviews for the sake of time, and let me just take a look here. Yeah, for the sake of time, I just want to make sure that we're kind of conscientious of that. We'll circle back into this again after I get back from the conference and just kind of show you a little bit about some of the other experiences that we had in this session. I hope this was helpful to you. I would love to hear some of your comments and feedback from the people that have never been to Adobe Summit, if this helped and was a good complement to some of the online streaming session. That's certainly my intent, and part of the reason why I'm sort of doing this. I just think it makes for a better experience for the overall user community. And again, I would love to connect with any of you. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and would love to start conversations. One of of the things that I learned that was kind of sad this year is I understand that there is no longer going to be an Adobe Summit for the European audience for this year. And I know there's supposed to be some more regional events that are in lieu of that. But I have found it very interesting working with some of the clients that have a European presence historically, and so I'd love to keep dialogue going with all of you on that continent. And there's never really been an Adobe Summit in the Oceania, the Australia, New Zealand, Asia Pacific kind of area. But you have great resources that are certainly over there, but I would like to make sure that some of the experience that we get here in North America, that more of that becomes available to you, because I just think that it helps to democratize things, and it helps to kind of. I just find it interesting because I learn from some of those conversations as much as I get to teach from them, and so I would welcome to have a dialogue with anyone and everyone from overseas, just talking about the ways that you are working with some of the technology that's featured here. So we'll probably do this with some of the other conferences. I've got about 3 or 4 more that are on the calendar this year for 2024 that definitely want to participate in. And so would love to hear back from you about ways that I could kind of incorporate that to share some of those experiences. And if you do this as well too, it would help me as well too for the ones that I can't get to kind of continue to learn and develop and just be a better professional to kind of serve with some of the different marketers that I've been lucky to work with. All right, well, that's it for Adobe Summit for this year. And really appreciate everybody that is tuned in and working with this content. And looking forward to seeing what Adobe Summit 2025 looks like, and hopefully, opening up some new channels and platforms to be able to kind of work with you guys again in the upcoming year. And we would welcome any opportunities to be able to work with any of you if you're interested in working with me to be able to help your different MarTech stacks. You can contact me at michael@conversionstore.com or just visit us at www.conversionstore.com. Thank you.